Good morning, good afternoon, evening. Welcome to Flat Earth School, the school that is around us 24/7 since the beginning of existence. I'm Mitchell from Australia, merely a student like the rest of us here on this beautiful Flat Earth School. And I was set up here today to capture some of our beautiful wildlife, some kangaroos, but they are very timid creatures. There's a big buck about 20 meters in the bush there, and they've decided not to stick around for showtime. Unfortunately, there are a few down here, so we'll see if we can get a little bit closer. I have had a few requests recently to get some kangaroos in the live stream, so that's what I'm attempting to do today. Just our local group of kangaroos. Who knows what a group of kangaroos is called? 10 points to anyone who knows. There's about 4 down here that we might try and get a bit close to. Probably as soon as I start talking again, they're going to jump into the bush. They've been out all night feeding on everyone's beautiful lawns. Some people call them a pest. I think they're gorgeous. My 2-year-old son, he loves them. I think he wants to be a kangaroo. I'll try and change the camera to zoom in a bit. No, can't do that. That's alright. Hope everyone is happy and healthy this morning. Looks like there's a healthy conversation going on already in the chat about Coriolis. It is a very, very triggering topic for globe believers. Mostly because there is a claim on the globe side that Coriolis exists, Earth-based Coriolis, that is. But no one is yet to show it actually exists. And that's the big problem for the globe. I'll just try and get a little bit closer to these kangaroos, and then we'll go over and do some actual practical demonstrations of what Coriolis actually is. I think that's as close I'll get before they're going to jump away. We'll see what's going on in the chat. Sleeping Warrior looks like he's leading the way. So do a few people. Starting right at the start, GPS. Sleeping Warrior says, number 1, if it's hovering but not drifting, welcome to Flat Earth. I'm assuming he's talking about a drone. Number 2, then again, welcome to Flat Earth. Number 3, welcome to Flat Earth. Number 4, anti-cyclones debunk your claim. Absolutely. I'd say if anyone is claiming hurricanes, tornadoes, cyclones are Coriolis, it is a very weak claim. That's not even Coriolis. And we're going to go through what Coriolis is here today. Sleeping Warrior says, we need to see drift if Earth is turning. Even if the thing conserves its momentum, the Earth is rotating. That cannot be conserved in your model. Only the linear part, not the rotating part. Sleeping Warrior also says that's the very thing Coriolis is, the failure to conserve momentum. That's right. If we're conserving momentum, we are not seeing any Coriolis effects. We need to see that apparent drift. What is the definition of Coriolis? It is the apparent deviation of an object in the inertial reference frame, and it has to be observed from the rotating non-inertial reference frame. You must have 2 reference frames. One being the rotating coordinate system, which you're standing on. That's where you're going to observe the Coriolis from. And the second reference frame, the non-inertial. Sorry, that was the non-inertial. And the second reference frame is the inertial reference frame, the non-rotating reference frame. So two reference frames, two coordinate systems. The rotating coordinate system, which is Earth, and the non-rotating inertial reference frame, which is everything that has left Earth. This is what is needed to see Coriolis. If you are claiming that things like drones, like planes, like hot air balloons are simply conserving momentum, that we do not see any Coriolis deviation in these things, then that is an absolute debunk of Coriolis. We need to see that apparent drift. If we do not see the apparent drift, you and your reference frames have been ruined. And that is firmly directed at the globe side, not the flat Earth side. We do not claim that we have reference frames, multiple reference frames. We do not have a rotating Earth, rotating below things in the inertial reference frame like I just said. Drones, hot air balloons, planes, birds, bees, anything that leaves the rotating reference frame. Don't you dare try and throw your children up in the air. They'll come down in a different continent. Inspector Gadget says, yeah, he looks hungry. Inspector Gadget, was it you that asked and requested for kangaroos in the live stream? I hope it was. Gadget Inspector also says, if you're upside down, how come the babies don't fall out of the mother's pouch? Adam Meakin, how are you, mate? Good to see you here. A mob of kangaroos. Yeah, keep chanting, fundies, globe fundies, that we do not see Coriolis, that we do not see these two reference frames, that we do not have these two reference frames. Keep chanting that the air is moving with the rotating Earth. Where do we ever see the Coriolis effect? Earth-based Coriolis. That is our challenge to you, globe believers. We do not claim there is Earth-based Coriolis, but your model does. Neil deGrasse Tyson describes it with a football being kicked. The winning field goal was aided by a third of an inch deflection to the right due to the rotation of the Earth. Adam Meakin says, they're not Kiwis then? No, Adam, they're not Kiwis or emus. No, there's no wild emus around my parts. Definitely mobs of kangaroos around our parts. There's just some small ones. There was a big male at the start of the stream that we did miss. Sometimes they're a bit feisty and they come up to you and want to do a bit of boxing or kicking. And sometimes they just don't have anything to do with you. They usually stay out all night. Don't know if they're classed as nocturnal, but they definitely are more active during the night around urban areas anyway. Probably because it's nice and quiet, there's not cars running around to run them over. I will say goodbye to the kangaroos for now. Adam Beacon says, are mobs allowed under COVID laws in Oz now? No, I'm not going to take up the dare to start a fight with one. If anyone's seen any of these kangaroos actually going at each other, two big bucks going at each other, it is ferocious. We'll say goodbye to the kangaroos now. We'll go over to where the main part of the show will be. We've got a local park down here with a roundabout. That's where we're going to actually view and demonstrate what Coriolis actually is. Because my claim is, there is no natural Coriolis on this earth. The only Coriolis we can demonstrate, the only Coriolis we can observe, is man-made. And obviously, if something is man-made, it does not require scientific inquiry. There is no scientific inquiry needed. We know the cause of the effect. If we're seeing an effect of Coriolis, then the cause is man-made. No scientific inquiry needed. The globe believers want desperately to be able to put Coriolis effect through the scientific method, but it's just not possible. What is the observed natural phenomenon for Coriolis? Gadget Inspector sent me a new challenge next. Freshwater crocs. Oh yeah, Jeff Gash says ducks. Yes, I can definitely achieve ducks on the live stream. There's definitely lots of ducks around this pond. Definitely not going over after saltwater crocs. There's none of them around these parts. Way too cold. Not that it's cold, but crocodiles like it nice and warm. Obviously reptilians, reptiles. I definitely wouldn't be hanging around here if there were crocs around. Put it this way. They're not as timid as kangaroos. Now, crocodiles kind of have a bad reputation. If you know anything about crocodiles, they go after easy meat, quote unquote. So don't be easy meat if you're in Australia, up north. That's swimming around billabongs, swimming around waterholes like this. If you're a bit further north, don't be doing that. They don't usually chase people. I suppose it depends how hungry they are. Right, just heading over to the playground over here. No kids at this time. Everyone's tucked up in bed or getting ready to go off to their child prison, aka school. Has anyone seen schools recently? In the last 5 to 10 years, they've started putting massive, like 8-foot fences around schools with big spikes at the top. I don't know about you, but it looks more like they're keeping the kids in than keeping people out. But anyway, not for our kids. They are free-range kids. Nice organic free-range kids at home. All right. Oh, sounds like someone else has lost his job. Ole? Yeah, that sucks. Sleeping Warrior says, shout out to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Sounds like he's lost his job too. That sucks. MN says, Mitchell from Australia, watch Veritasium. Does water swirl the other way in the southern hemisphere? It's about Coriolis. And it's 4 years old, yeah. A claim of Coriolis, as we just went over. If you're claiming something to be Coriolis, it has to be an apparent deviation. That's part of the description. It has to be apparent. Things like water swirling in a drain or a toilet, that is actual drift. That is actual movement, actual spin. If something is actually spinning, it's not Coriolis. It has to be apparent. It has to be things moving in straight lines, but appearing to drift due to the rotation of something beneath it. It has to be observed in the rotating reference frame. So let's go over what Coriolis actually is once more. It is the apparent deviation of an object in the inertial reference frame observed from the rotating non-inertial reference frame. You must have two reference frames, two coordinate systems. So in the example of our world, the claim from the globe is that they have a rotating coordinate system, which is the Earth. And then everything not attached to the Earth, the non-rotating inertial reference system, is where we're going to see things deviate in. But we have to be viewing it from the rotating reference frame. So as I said before, Neil deGrasse Tyson describes Coriolis as when a football is kicked. How does he describe it? The field goal was aided by 1/3 of an inch deflection to the right due to the rotation of the Earth. Then he makes a big deal about his mind being blown. Amazing, isn't it? Well, if that were true, everything leaving the rotating reference frame of the Earth, going into the inertial reference frame as claimed, like a football being kicked, leaving the rotating reference frame, the claimed rotating reference frame of the Earth. So everything like hot air balloons, drones, planes, birds, bees, throwing somebody up in the air, jumping on a trampoline, you would see Coriolis deviation in all of these things. And we're going to do some live demonstrations here to see what Coriolis actually is. And my claim is there is no naturally observed Coriolis. Prove me wrong, Globers. Point me to Coriolis that is naturally occurring. And then maybe you can put it through the scientific method. Anyone knows what that sound is? It is a Mavic Pro 2 drone being set up. Anyone that's followed my work ever knows that I've done some demonstrations here at this park of what Coriolis actually is. Now, rather than just replay what I've done before, I'm going to do some demonstrations live. I think just calibrating the... Alright, here we go. So for anyone who hasn't seen this demonstration before, it's fairly simple. I put the drone on the roundabout. Now what we have here is a rotating reference frame. Let's say that's the Earth. And the drone obviously is on the rotating reference frame. Now if the Earth were actually spinning, when I take that drone off the roundabout, we put it on the stationary ground beneath the drone, the same effect should happen if the Earth were actually rotating. But it's not. So what should the drone, when it lifts off, what should the drone be seeing? Can anyone tell me? Should the drone be keeping lockstep with that rotating roundabout? Or, if someone was on the rotating roundabout, would it appear that the drone was deviating. What should we be seeing? This is a demonstration of what Coriolis is when I lift the drone off the roundabout. Now, for these purposes, I have to stop the roundabout because the drone doesn't really like starting to take off already moving. So that's a big problem for the globe. If the drone detects movement, it will not take off. I'll press the takeoff button. Doesn't like it. The sensor bias is too large. Placed on a flat stationary surface. That's what it's asking me to do. So obviously, I can't be doing that. What did the drone do? Obviously, it did not keep up with the rotating reference frame, did it? It would rather just sit there in its own reference frame. And this is what the drone sees. Above the roundabout, it looks down and it sees the rotating reference frame turning beneath it. Continents flying towards it and away from it. I'm going to go up a little bit higher here because it wanted to fall down a bit. But this is what we would see if we actually had a rotating reference frame beneath this drone. Obviously, we don't have a rotating reference frame other than this roundabout. The drone is in the inertial reference frame compared to the rotating reference frame of the roundabout here. Do we ever see this on Earth? I'll stop the roundabout. Rotating reference frame stopped. Now, it is claimed that everything around us here, everything around us is rotating. So when I lift this drone off, the drone should appear to deviate. The drone should appear to whiz away because the Earth is rotating underneath it. So let's take the drone off. Drone lift off. And the drone just hovers there. Why is the Earth not rotating underneath the drone? We are on the rotating reference frame. Why are we not seeing deviation in this drone? Globe believers will say that the drone is in the air, and the air is keeping lockstep with the rotating reference frame. Well, not only is this not Coriolis, it is violating gas laws. Gas is unbonded. I'll just land the drone here because it's a little bit loud and we want to keep using the drone. So if you claim, globe believers, that we're not seeing Coriolis deviation due to conservation of what? Angular momentum? Angular momentum, what's that measured in? Is it radians? Well, you're going to need an R value for that. You're going to need a radius. And since January 1, 2020, the R value, the radius of your globe, has been absolutely debunked. Gadget Inspector says, should of flying the drone into the mob of kangaroos. No, that wouldn't be fun. You're going to be banned if you keep saying that, Gadget Inspector. Nah, they're very timid. They'll hear the drone coming from a long, long way away. Animals don't really like that buzzing sound of the drone. Pretty hard to capture animals up close on drones. They are quite loud. But let's get back to the real world here. And let's actually observe some Coriolis deviation. Obviously, we can't observe it from here because there is no rotating reference frame. The Earth is not moving. Us standing here, everything that we see, all the trees, all the mountains, hills, water, we aren't moving. Prove us wrong, Globers. Prove that we are the rotating reference frame. The Earth is stationary. If it were moving, we would see deviation in everything. Coriolis deviation, like Neil deGrasse Tyson says, when a football is kicked, it will be aided by 1/3 of an inch deflection to the right, depending on which way you're facing, apparently, due to the rotation of the Earth beneath it. And just remember, the Coriolis effect is the apparent deviation of an object in the inertial reference frame observed from the rotating non-inertial reference frame. It's as simple as that. You must see an apparent deviation. Now, it can't be a real deviation. It can't be just my drone flying around. It can't be water swirling in a bathtub or a toilet. It definitely can't be hurricanes, tornadoes, cyclones. They are real spin. They are actual spin. Coriolis, the definition of Coriolis is apparent deviation. Hurricanes, tornadoes, cyclones, they are really spinning. Nothing to do with Coriolis. They definitely do not prove that we have a rotating spherical Earth beneath our feet. All right, let's actually see what Coriolis actually is. I'm going to take the camera off the tripod. Let's go on. Let's see what it's like to actually be on a rotating reference frame. Here we go. This is what it's like to be on a rotating reference frame. Everything that's not attached to the rotating reference frame will whiz away from us. If we are moving, it appears that everything that is not attached to this rotating reference frame, it appears that everything is deviating. There's going to be, as Nathan Oakley puts it, a killer tree come. If there was a branch of that tree just sticking out, obviously the tree's not moving, it's planted in the ground. But if I'm on the rotating reference frame, it will appear like that tree is coming to get me. That the limb of that tree is coming towards me to try and hit me. It appears that everything in the inertial reference frame is deviating. Now I'm going to try and get a little bit more speed because I've got a ball here. And this is how we see Coriolis. This is how we see the apparent deviation. Cadge Inspector says he feels Coriolis after 5 whiskies. Alright. Getting a little bit dizzy here, but let's keep going. Alright, so I'm going a bit faster. So what happens when this is still on the rotating reference frame. What happens when it leaves the rotating reference frame, goes in the inertial reference frame? Is it going to just keep up with the rotating reference frame? No. It appears that the ball has drifted away. Let's do it again. What did we just see? The ball apparently deviating. It's going in a straight line. I'm chucking it straight. But it just appeared as though it curved away from me, deviated from the straight line. That is Coriolis. And the only way that we can see Coriolis, experience Coriolis, is in a man-made example. We can never ever see Coriolis naturally. Well, we might be unlucky. We've got some other large kangaroos over here about to grace us with their presence. Big buck. They won't last long, so if you're here right now, you're going to see some wild kangaroos on the live stream. Gadget Inspector, I hope it was you that requested kangaroos. We're not talking about kangaroos today. We're talking about Coriolis. Sleeping Warrior says, watch out for the apparent taxman Mitchell. He appears to be coming for you. Wait, that taxman is actually coming for me. Run. He thought it was apparent taxman for a second. No, that's a real taxman. Gadget Inspector says, yes, it was him who requested kangaroos. But yeah, I'm sorry I can't fulfill the request of crocodiles in live streams. As I said, it's way too cold here. But today we're talking about Coriolis. What is Coriolis and what isn't Coriolis? Well, Coriolis is a totally man-made effect. You can never ever see naturally occurring Coriolis. Can't be put through the scientific method. Can't be observed naturally. Can't be put through the scientific method because the cause of Coriolis is always humans. Simple as that. Now, I'd love nothing better than to be sitting on the roundabout with this camera as the drone takes off, but I fear that the drone would hit me. So I'm just going to be putting the camera on the roundabout. Let's see what it looks like from the rotating reference frame of the roundabout when I put the camera on the roundabout and the drone takes off. This is Coriolis, and this is the only way that we can see Coriolis, inducing a rotating reference frame because we don't have a naturally occurring one here, and then for something to leave it. Alright, so we've got our rotating reference frame here, about to be rotating reference frame. Let's try and do this without the camera getting hit, preferably. So obviously, when this is spinning, it looks like the drone is keeping lockstep with the spinning reference frame. They're both attached. They're on the same reference frame, the rotating reference frame. And as you can see, everything not attached to the rotating reference frame, the inertial reference frame, appears to deviate. And so like we saw before, what happens when the drone takes off from the rotating reference frame? Will it keep lockstep like it is? Or will it apparently deviate? So once again, I can't take off the drone when it's rotating. So I'm going to have to pretend that the Earth has stopped rotating and then take off. Anyone catch the drone? Here it comes. Coming towards us, going away from us. Definitely not keeping lockstep with the rotating reference frame. This is what we should see, an apparent deviation of the drone. The drone should look like it's coming towards us and then whizzing away from us. That's what Coriolis is. Two reference frames, and it is observed from the rotating reference frame. something in the inertial reference frame. The drone in this example, there it is, whizzing away from us. Is the drone moving? No. The drone is not moving at all. I'll get the view of the drone. What's the drone doing? It's just watching this rotating reference frame move underneath it. That's what the drone's doing. Whoop. The drone is watching us on the rotating reference frame. That's what you should see if the Earth were actually turning. But we don't see that. We never see a drone take off from the Earth and appear to come away, drift away from us, come towards us, whiz away. The drone wanting to just hover, wanting to just stay in that same position. And from the rotating reference frame, we're seeing an apparent deviation. Stop the rotating reference frame, and we stop Coriolis. It's as simple as that. We do not have Coriolis, Earth-based Coriolis on this Earth. Hope everyone understands what Coriolis is now, and how we can never ever see naturally occurring Earth-based Coriolis, because we do not have a rotating reference frame beneath us for the drone to whiz away. I'll do one more demonstration from the claimed to be rotating reference frame of the Earth. Now remember, the globe claim is everything around us is claimed to be rotating. Like this reference frame here. So everything not attached to this rotating reference frame, we would experience, we would view, observe Coriolis. Everything not attached to this rotating reference frame in the inertial reference frame. So if we stop this rotating reference frame, we're now on a stationary enclosed flat Earth. What happens when I put my drone on the stationary Earth? Are we going to see the drone appear to drift away from us, to deviate when I take off? Let's see. The drone has left the claimed to be rotating reference frame of the Earth. Why is the drone not whizzing away from us? Why is the drone not observed to deviate? This demonstration right here absolutely debunks Earth turn. Absolutely debunks the notion that we have Earth-based Coriolis. Yeah, Sleeping Warrior says no amount of evidence could ever persuade an idiot. Well, it's more ignorance than an idiot, but anyway. Alright, we'll get the drone down. That's enough of the drone today. The drone's definitely done its bit today. But we can even go further with these demonstrations. So what is it that would even make anyone think that we do have a rotating reference frame, that we do have Earth turning beneath our feet? What is a claim from the globe? How would anyone think in the first instance that we are moving, that we are rotating? Well, obviously, we can't see this on the ground. So where do we need to be viewing a claim to be observed Coriolis? Well, the stars. How do we know the Earth is turning? Well, because the stars are turning. Well, that's a big problem for the globe. because if the stars are in the inertial reference frame, obviously not attached to the Earth, I don't think anyone is claiming that the stars are attached to the Earth. In the globe paradigm, the only reason why the stars are turning is because the Earth is turning beneath it. The globe believers claim that it's not the stars rotating, it is the Earth rotating beneath the stars. And that can easily be debunked in a couple of breaths. So, if we do see stars rotating and they're in the inertial reference frame, anything else in the inertial reference frame, we will not see the rotation of these stars. That goes for the sun, it goes for the sun and the moon and anything in the inertial reference frame. So star rotation. Like I just demonstrated, when my drone leaves the rotating reference frame of the roundabout, it's in the inertial reference frame. So if the drone is in the inertial reference frame, viewing the stars that are also in the inertial reference frame, then we should never ever see the stars move from the drone. But as I've shown before, there is definitely drone footage of stars rotating. And that goes for the sun also. So why does the sun rise and set? Why does the sun apparently move across the sky? Is it because the sun is moving on the globe model? No. In their narrative, the sun moves because the Earth turns beneath it. When we're seeing the sun move across the sky, sunsets, sunrises, it's because the Earth is moving. Now, what happens when the drone leaves the rotating reference frame of the Earth and it views the sun? The sun being in the inertial reference frame, the drone being in the inertial reference frame, the drone would never ever see the sun move. Because remember, the sun is only rotating because because the Earth is rotating underneath the sun. Only reason why we see sunsets and sunrises on the globe, because it's the Earth rotating. Obviously, when the drone takes off, can we still see sunsets, sunrises, the sun moving? Absolutely. Everybody's seen those awesome videos of double sunsets from a drone. But what happens when the sun has just set? We take the drone off, goes into the claimed inertial reference frame, and we see the sun again. How has the sun come back into frame if the sun is in the inertial reference frame? The drone would also be in the inertial reference frame. The sun would never ever appear to move from the drone, but yet the sun comes back into view just because we've taken off, because we've got higher. The sun sets again from the drone. We can go higher, we push the up stick on the drone, and we can see the sun again. How is this possible if it is the Earth rotating that creates that apparent movement of the sun, the movement of the stars, the movement of the moon, any celestial body? Just try and get a nice view here. Walking up a bit of a hill. Let's have a discussion about what I just said. That absolutely debunks the notion that we have a rotating reference frame of a globe. from a drone do we see the sun still moving? It's because the sun is actually moving. Not apparently moving, actually moving. And if you claim, like I said a bit earlier, if you claim that when the drone leaves your claimed rotating reference frame, that the air around the drone is simply just velcroed to the rotating reference frame, velcroed to the earth, it moves as one, that is a violation of every gas law possible. Not only are you begging the question that the earth is rotating in the first instance, there is never, ever any proof that the earth that we are on is actually rotating. No proof at all. You're begging the question. And if you think that the air, if we are in that begging the question fallacy, that fallacious reasoning that we're the ones rotating, not the stars, the sun, the moon, if you beg the question that we are the ones rotating, and you claim that the air, everything that's meant to be in the inertial reference frame around the rotating reference frame, the air is keeping lockstep with the rotating reference frame, that is a violation of every single gas law. Show us the experiment where gas rotates in lockstep with a rotating solid body, and then prove the mechanism. How is gas keeping lockstep with something that's rotating? Show us the experiment. Show us it happening, globe believers. PJ Crookshank says 15 degrees per hour. Thanks, Bob. Oh my God, get a new rant, any-flat earthers. Oh, blue. Name which laws are being violated? Ideal gas law. PV equals nRT. If you say that the atmosphere is rotating in unison with the spherical Earth, not only are you begging the question of a spherical Earth, you know, you need half of that. Black Swan since 2021, January 1, 2021. January 1, 2020. The Black Swan has absolutely demolished any claim that we have a radius value, that we have a spherical Earth. You're gonna need a radius for that. But atmosphere, spherical shaped air, if air has a shape, you're gonna need a container for that, globe believers. Is your world contained? Is it a closed system? No. You cannot have spherical shaped air without a container. You can't have it both ways, globe believers. It's as simple as that. Show us the experiment where gas rotates in lockstep with a rotating solid body. Does not exist. Cannot happen. Gas has no intermolecular bonds. How is gas ever velcroed, bonded to anything? It has no intermolecular bonds. It moves freely and randomly at high speeds in all directions. That's what all gas law dictates. That gas moves freely and randomly at high speeds in all directions. Let's just go over the claim that Bob Nodell has proven the Earth to be rotating with a ring laser gyro. So what is the observed natural phenomenon? What is the science behind this? Can this be scientifically proven? No. What is a ring laser gyro? It's definitely not a naturally occurring effect that we're seeing. What are we seeing? Some sort of deviation with light in technology? No, can't be put through the scientific method once again. The cause is obviously man. Man made it. Whatever happens in that apparatus, just like the Cavendish, quote unquote, experiment, there is no naturally occurring phenomenon. Just like a Foucault pendulum. Where do we see a pendulum in nature? Point us to a pendulum that will just keep rocking backwards and forwards. And show us that pendulum just moving in the straight line that apparently deviates for Coriolis. The next claim. The Foucault pendulum. So what is the Foucault pendulum claiming to do? It claims that when we pull the Foucault pendulum back, just a pendulum, it oscillates. Why does it oscillate as it rocks backwards and forwards? Because the Earth is turning underneath it. That's the claim. Obviously, it can't be put through the scientific method. What is the cause of the pendulum oscillating? It's not natural. It's man. So it definitely is not scientific evidence. And if you claim that the pendulum is deviating from that straight line because of the Earth turning underneath it, then everything that is not attached to the Earth has to be observed to deviate. Hot air balloons, drones, aeroplanes, birds, bees, jumping. Jumping on the trampoline would be the most extreme sport in the world. You'd jump and a continent would come towards you. Don't even think about chucking your kids in the air. That would be the #1 way to lose your kids. Chuck them in the air and you won't see them again. They would apparently deviate due to the Earth rotating underneath. This can be easily debunked by a bit of logic. Modus tollens. But let's first set up the example of if the Earth were rotating, flight times would be drastically changed. So we see a flight from Charlotte, North Carolina to LA. It takes 4.5 hours. If that flight was traveling at 500 miles per hour from Charlotte to LA, both on 35 degrees north latitude, the Earth would be spinning at 860 miles per hour, as per the globe claim. Add 500 miles per hour traveling speed of the plane, you'd be traveling at 1,360 miles per hour. You would make that trip from Charlotte, North Carolina to LA in 1.5 hours. So let's put this, knowing this, if the Earth were rotating, if we could see any deviation at all, if we could see any Coriolis at all, we would see flight times drastically changing. Let's put it through Modus tollens. If P, then Q, not Q, therefore not P. If P, the Earth spins, then Q, a flight from Charlotte to LA, traveling at 500 miles per hour, should take no longer than 1.5 hours. Not Q, a flight takes 4.5 hours from Charlotte to LA. Therefore, not P, the Earth is not spinning. We can do this with every example of your claimed Coriolis, globe believers. If P, the Earth spins, then Q, everything that leaves the rotating reference frame of the Earth would appear to deviate. Not Q. We see nothing deviating when it leaves the claim to be rotating reference frame of the Earth. Then not P. The Earth is not rotating. It is as simple as that. Rowdy Racer says the Earth moves at the same speed as an hour hand on a clock. 360 degrees in 24 hours. I don't know about your clocks, but my clocks don't go 360 degrees in 24 hours, mate. My clocks aren't 24-hour clocks, the ones hanging on the wall at home. What happens to those ones? Do they have to travel double the speed? What's going on there? How can you claim that clocks turn at the same speed? It's not speed. That's an angular movement. A degrees per hour, that's angular movement. No, you have to put this into miles per hour. It would be 1,000 miles per hour at the equator. Is that a slow movement? If my drone took off from the equator 1,000 miles per hour, it would be appearing to deviate 1,000 miles per hour when leaving the rotating reference frame of the Earth. Yeah, Francis Flat Earth says, my clock doesn't have a 3959 mile radius. Remember, that's the claim, Globe Believers. 3959 miles, debunked by the Black Swan. From a 1 foot observer height, seeing the horizon at far in excess of 10 miles. What does that put the radius? If you still think you're living on a globe, 1 foot observer height, 10-mile distance to the horizon, that puts the radius at 264,000 miles. Adam Meakin says, if your clock was 3959 miles radius, how fast would the hand be moving? 1,000 miles per hour, if you want to use that example of a clock. Yeah, don't use the example of a clock saying, look at the clock, it moves so slow. You wouldn't even observe any deviation. You absolutely would. Don't use miles. No, don't use a rotating degrees per hour. That's reserved for something that is spherical. A degrees? You're begging the question that we have a radius in the first place. Angular momentum, measured in radians. You're gonna need a radius for that. Gonna need an R value. Something moving at a degree per hour, you're gonna need a radius for that. "15 degrees per hour, as claimed by Bob, you're gonna need a radius for that. Black Swan absolutely debunks everything to do with Coriolis. I didn't even need to make that example down at the park down there, with the rotating reference frame of the roundabout, with the drone leaving the rotating reference frame, going into the inertial reference frame. From the rotating reference frame, we observe the drone to apparently deviate. Was the drone deviating? Was the drone moving? No, it was just hovering there. We were moving underneath the drone. That is what Coriolis is. An observed deviation, an apparent deviation from the rotating reference frame, looking at something in the inertial reference frame. That's what we need to observe if you claim that there is Earth-based Coriolis. What happens when I lift my drone from the claim to be rotating reference frame of this Earth? Do we see the drone apparently deviate? No. No Coriolis. You wouldn't expect to see the drone drift, says some anti-flat earthers. You and your reference frames have been ruined, says Simon Dan. That's firmly at you, Globe Believers. You and your reference frame have been ruined. We do not have two reference frames here on this stationary, flat, enclosed Earth. Yes, Adam Meakin, the speed is of course defined by the radius of the Earth. How are we getting 1,000 miles per hour speed at the equator? How are we getting an equator without an R value? How are we getting a speed, an angular degrees per hour without a radius value? Yeah, Kevlar says no drones lifting over a level lake. Vinyl records disprove flat Earth. Oh yeah. Take us through that. Yeah, Arwen says, you and your reference frame has been ruined, Simon Dan. This has been a live demonstration of what Coriolis actually is. Obviously, you will never experience Coriolis in nature, in our flat Earth school. It just does not exist in nature. You will never ever see Coriolis naturally occurring. It is a man-made phenomenon. Can't put it through the scientific method. No scientific inquiry needed. What's the cause of Coriolis? Man. Case closed. Don't need to put it through scientific inquiry. Coriolis is a disease. Yes, the Coriolis disease. Watch Nathan Oakley on the Flat Earth debates. I'm pretty sure there's one premiering straight after this. Go over to Nathan Oakley 1980, or maybe it's Nathan Oakley channel, his second channel. Flat Earth debates, uncut and after show straight after this. It is a glorious time to be a flat earther. We have proven beyond all doubt that we live on a flat, stationary, enclosed Earth. I've just proven today that we live on a stationary Earth. No Coriolis. I've just proved today that we live on a enclosed Earth. The gas that the drone is taking off in, it has a volume. If space were real, if we had no container, the gas that we breathe would escape, would expand freely and rapidly in all directions, out into that space. Isn't it curious how they call it space? A space for the gas to fuel. Do we ever see that? No, we're breathing quite comfortably here. There is no gas expanding into a claimed space of 10 to the minus 17 torr. We are definitely enclosed. If you're claiming atmosphere, globe believers, you are unwittingly invoking a container. To have spherical shaped air, you need a container. So keep chanting atmosphere, globe believers. You're just proving that we are enclosed. And the sextant absolutely, beyond all doubt, proves a physical measurement of a flat Earth. We've been hitting it pretty hard the past couple of weeks on the sextant, and how it proves flat Earth, how it physically measures a flat Earth, is very devastating for the globe believers. If the this is very relevant. If you feel like the world turns on you, turn to Flat Earth School. It is around us 24/7 since the beginning of existence. I want to make that specific to this episode. If you feel like the world turns on you, this episode of Flat Earth School has just debunked that notion that the world is turning, that the Earth that you're standing on is turning. We do not see a deviation in drones leaving the claim to be rotating reference frame. We don't see Coriolis effect in anything here on Earth other than man-made situations like I demonstrated here. Thank you for joining me today. If you like this presentation, if you like my work, please smash the super chat, sign up to my Patron. It's a PayPal link. You can purchase my wife's books. All the links are in the description below. If you feel like the world turns on you, turn to Flat Earth School. It is around us 24/7 since the beginning of existence. I've been Mitchell from Australia, merely a student in this beautiful, beautiful Flat Earth School around us. It is the best teacher you could ever hope for. You will never ever see Coriolis in this beautiful Flat Earth School around us. Everyone, get out there and see, experience, touch, feel, listen, just be in this Flat Earth School. See it for what it is. We are enclosed, we are stationary. It is physically measured as flat. We navigate as flat. Go out and experience it. Get out into this beautiful Flat Earth School. Until tomorrow, guys, thank you for being here. See you next time.